So welcome to another Tandem channel video on a specific route. Today we're looking at the Swale-Trail. Please, before you go any further, certainly click the subscribe button. We've got loads and loads of routes all over the UK in different parts, and we document them with metre by metre time-lapse photography so that you can make your own judgments about what you're able and not able to do. And when you get to the end of this video, please give us a like and write a comment underneath if you found this as helpful when you've had a go. Thanks very much. Well, if you're planning on cycling in the Yorkshire Dales, there are literally thousands of road, gravel and MTB paths to choose from. Now, if you're considering the Swale-Trail, we've got several videos which are documenting the whole route, particularly using time-lapse, so you can make your own choices about bikes and conditions and whether it's suitable for you. Hopefully these will help you anyway on the way. Riding the Swale-Trail is a must for any cyclist that's visiting the Dales. Now, if you're a roadie, then just hire a bike. We aren't in any way affiliated with the Dales Bike Centre, but would give them really personal recommendations. Please pre-book though, because I suspect they can be busy and they have fixed opening times as well. What else can we tell you about the route? Well, it's also an excellent preparation for longer tours that you might be wanting to do in hilly places. We're glad we did it before we took on Snowdonia and the Hebrides. Now, the Hebrides, that is a ride that we can recommend for scenery. Okay, the Swale-Trail is in the north of the Dales, really on a line between the Lake District in the west and the North York Moors on the right, and it's best approached from either Catterick and Richmond to the east on the A1M, or from Leyburn and Middleham slightly towards the south on the east. Well, the lowland end, which is in Grinton, is really fairly gentle and really adventure family friendly, and the upland end near Keld is quite steep and gnarly and certainly requires a bit of skill to ascend and descend safely. It's a mixture, the whole route, of road and gravel and rocks and water and a bit of grass. There's a bit of everything, and it is generally pretty manageable. It does take a bit of skill in places. It's 20 kilometres long, so you've got to double that if you're going to return, or about 45k if you're going to do a full loop using the road. And although Keld is only about 250 metres higher than Grinton, you can expect around 450 metres of climb and about 300 metres of descent if you're going uphill, and then of course you've got the return vice versa. Toilets on the route, well, there are some at Grinton, there are some at Gunnerside, there's some at Muka, and there are toilets in Keld, but I don't think they're open all the time, so you've just got to be a little bit careful. They're seasonal, and also I think they get closed in the evening. Now, to be honest, part of the routes are pretty gnarly and tough, and we've managed it ourselves on a 40-year-old tandem with 32mm tyres, and later on a newer tandem with 38mm tyres, which was certainly easier, but any soft or hardtail MTB or a good fat tired gravel bike should be okay. Electric bikes will make short work of the hills, although any solo bike should really find it easier than our old tandem with a couple of pensioners on it. Do be aware though of the weather. Ensure that you're fully waterproofed. It can go from bright sunshine to snow and hail all in one journey, so irrespective of time of year, be ready for all potential weathers. Right, if you choose to go just one way and then use the road to make a loop, you must be really, really careful not to take the path that Komoot suggests, that I've shown here, which sort of links that car park space on Swale Hall Lane in the south, or at the other end at Low Houses. This path is not suitable for any bike. We have done it. I can assure you it is not suitable for any bike, especially a tandem. As it rises over the 600 metre contour, what you'll find is it suddenly is no longer a track, which was pretty rocky track anyway. It just becomes a mass, a trudge really through deep sphagnum moss. There's gates, there's huge rock piles, and then at the Low Houses end there's just the worst track you've ever seen. It's piles of boulders and rocks, and you might be able to manage it on a four-wheel drive tractor, but you certainly won't be able to manage it on a bike. It's ghastly. So avoid this by really making sure that if you're using something like Komoot, you put a couple of waypoints on Swale Hill Lane and also on Low Lane, and make sure you can cut around through that bit. Do not take the path that's to the south of that, which is very, very tempting in some ways because Komoot makes it easy. It is horrendous, and we met one guy who said it was almost impossible, and another couple, one of them had a snapped chain. So there's your warning. So why should you take this route? Well, it's a great route with classic Swale-Trail views. It's got opportunities to stop in Gunnerside and Muka for coffee and cake. You've also got bike hire from the cycle centre in Reeth, which is the Dales Bike Centre, and they'll give good quality MTBs. They've got electric MTBs, they've got coffee, cake, and lots of spares, repairs, and plenty of advice. So that's a great place to start. Now, if it is manageable by a couple of pensioners on a 40-year-old tandem, I'm sure it's manageable to most moderately experienced cyclists on reliable solo bikes, but I would not recommend it for younger children, or someone really who's unable to repair a puncture or fix a snap chain or something like that, or particularly if you've just got unreliable bikes. Just get some advice, take some advice, get a decent bike and hire one if necessary. If this is your first time, you may also want to just download the National Parks cycle route information that they provide about the Swale-Trail. Here's a picture of it. Download it. Just make sure you've done all your background reading before you start. It's not hard. It's pretty easy. Family friendly. However, usual cautions apply. Starting point. We think the best starting point is probably in Reeth, but round Reeth and Grinton, but for simplicity and really for a shout out because they're great, we're going to suggest you start at the Dales Bike Centre for a coffee. Now that is technically in Reeth, and you'll be able to find their details on the internet. They're great for coffee and cakes. They've got bikes for hire, electric and manual MTBs, and they've also got lots of spares for repair and lots of advice. Return or loop. So, should you head upstream or downstream and therefore make it a loop, or should you go both ways? Now, there's a lot to consider on this, and loops are often really interesting and they give you quite a change of scenery, but the returns will often give you a totally different perspective on the way back, particularly depending on where the sun was when you went, and you get a completely different view. So this is what I would say. If you can guarantee that you're going to start early, I would probably do both sides. Be aware that you're looking at 40 odd kilometres and it's moderately tough going in quite a lot of that. So you could always have a break in Keld or Muka and buy some lunch there if you wanted. If time is short, and it can take quite a while to get to the starting point if you're in any other part of the Dales, then I would probably suggest that you go upstream, start at Grinton and then go upstream and then return by road, because that's faster and you get the downhills on the road, and it gives you a great chance to work your way up. Now, if you take the road to Keld and then take the descent, of course, what happens there is that you get to go downhill on the toughest climbs, but I didn't find it quite so interesting, if that makes sense. But if making a loop out of it, make sure you do remember to avoid that ridiculous commute detour that we mentioned earlier on. Just be careful, we've gone from blazing sunshine to snow in a single ride. So first of all, be prepared for all weathers. Make sure you carry spare water, food, sun cream, all of those sorts of things. Also have a first aid kit. It is really gnarly in places and you may take a tumble. It's about 4 to 6 hours long, so ask yourself a question: will your phone battery last? Or if you're using a Garmin or Wahoo sat-nav, make sure that that's fully charged. Make sure if you've got electronic Di2 braking, gear changes, make sure your batteries are all fully charged. And I would take a separate charger for your phone as well, because you really do not want it to run out, even though there's no signal most of the way. Spares as well. Make sure you've got something to repair the chains that you've got, particularly if you've got mixed chains for 8-speed and 10-speed and maybe even a 12-speed. You're going to need to be able to repair a chain. We've broken chains all over the place. Make sure you can repair a puncture, a ripped tyre, that you've got several spare tubes. Make sure you've got all the tools you need, particularly all the Allen keys and a chain repair tool, and some duct tape, a few cable ties, and also take some money as well. You may just break down completely and have to be picked up by a taxi or whatever in Gunnerside. Make sure you've got everything you need. So in summary, this is a great ride. Everybody should have a go at it. Just be prepared. Make sure your bike's in good condition. Make sure you're in reasonable condition. Make sure that you can cope with a few eventualities. Allow yourself plenty of time and be ready for fabulous scenery and a few gnarly roads and a few long hills. 20k each way, and the climbing's not too bad, but it is a bit laborious in places. So should you do it? Of course you should. No questions. It's a great ride.